This episode, Kevin Kronemeyer from Kronemeyer's Repair Service. Kevin's a handyman based in Glasgow, Kentucky, and we had an interesting discussion on being a handyman in a small market. Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show, home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros Radio Show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition's entitled An Interview with Kevin Kronemeyer from Kronemeyer's Repair Service. To help me explain, I'm here with my ever-cheerful co-host and old buddy, John.
You need help. You need help to explain.
John, you know I needed help for a long time, but that's just
Yes.
mentally. Anyway.
Well,
Johnny, what's been happening? Tell me a personal story. Tell me a story,
man,
baby.
you know what? It's been slow for me for a while, and now it's just really, things are just really piling up here. Probably like a lot of other people. The kids are, obviously back in school at this point. Everybody's just trying to get things. We're coming up on the holiday season. Everybody's trying to get everything fixed up. I was just doing some shutters, and boy, it's a big, a lot of to-do list things. And it's been great. It's been great because nothing has been like really pressing. So I kind of have been able to do it at my own pace, which I love doing that, So, but it's been
You've
been
been
nuts,
busy.
It's been crazy.
Yeah, you've been busy.
Yeah, I've been busy. It's been great.
It's been great. It's been great, baby. Well, we interviewed Kevin Kronemeyer, and Kevin is really active on our Handyman Pros Facebook group, and he's put up some great pictures and stuff. And so we wanted to get him on the show and just have and do some interviews and just talk handymanning, and just talk. He came up with some really good points that you weren't going to want to listen to. Some things about maintenance and some things that about maintaining your home in general. A bit about being a handyman in a small market. A lot of really really good points. It, as I say, it sounded a little bit like a lot of the things we've talked about, but he's just doing the same things that we're doing. So, anyway, we did this interview with Kevin Kronemeyer, and here it is. We're here with Kevin Kronemeyer from Kronemeyer's Repair Service. Kevin, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yeah, welcome, Kevin.
All right. Well, we brought Kevin on the show largely because Kevin is very active on our Handyman Pros Facebook group, and he's done a lot of really cool I think they're cool. He's done some really cool things that he's posted. I now have to do a laundry room. Thanks, buddy.
Glad to help.
Yeah, glad to help, right? So the wife saw his idea and says, "Man, that's fantastic. We need to do that." I'm like, "Oh, geez." Anyway, so with that, Kevin, can you give us some background on you and your business? Give us an idea why you started the handyman business. Tell us what you've done over the past number of years, all that sort of cool, groovy stuff. We heard some of this in the pre-show, but we want to let our listeners know what y'all.
Sure. Thanks. Good morning. Yeah, I am retired Army, so I did maintenance for 23 years in the service. Always did my own repairs in and around military housing, places that we've lived. And I grew up with a wood shop in the garage. Dad had a table saw wood shop, so very familiar with that. After getting out of the Army, ran a maintenance program for Kellogg's Bakery, and then was a facility manager for a company where we did maintenance throughout the entire facility. But it was a contract job. So at the end of 5 years, who knows if you have a job? I got to looking around, found another job that was a permanent job, and put in 2 weeks notice. At the end of the 2 weeks notice, took a 3-day hiatus between the jobs. And right in the middle of the 3-day break, I broke my left knee. So the new place wouldn't let me come in on a cast and crutches, of course, and looked at the wife and I said, "Okay, what am I going to do now?" She said, "Well, you know how to fix everything. Why don't you just open up your own business?" So scared me to death, and I ventured into it and opened up Kronemeyer Repair Services and started doing small repairs in and around the town that I live in, Glasgow, Kentucky, and was able to grow the business from there into going on my fourth year as a handyman and getting a lot of work by word of mouth. Of course, when I started out, it had to be advertised in a local paper. And believe it or not, here it is 3 years later, I get phone calls from people that say they cut that ad out of the paper, tacked it up on their refrigerator, and still have it.
Oh,
Wow.
that's it. Yeah, that's
cool.
interesting. Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I had a similar instance of that when I was in the vending business a million years ago, and I would walk through industrial parks and I would hand out a brochure, and I got calls 3 and 4 and 5 years later from those brochures as they sat out there, right? So I mean, so folks, I guess part of it is, if you're contemplating getting in the handyman business, or any business really for that matter, believe it or not, printed materials stick around for a long, long, long time, right? I mean, that's kind of the point. So tell us a little bit about Glasgow. So Glasgow is where, and give us like an idea of the size, like, because John and I both work out in North Atlanta, as most of our listeners know, but we live in a major metro, and I'm kind of assuming that Glasgow is not a major metro. Is that a correct statement?
Correct. Glasgow is Glasgow, like Scotland.
Okay.
The area is South Central Kentucky, just kind of east of Bowling Green, Kentucky, and it's not that large. We're probably looking at, if I had to guess, 18,000 people, in smaller communities out and around it. So it gives me the ability to be able to do a little bit of traveling. I don't really like to go more than about 30 miles away for any particular job. But it's got a nice clientele. It's got older buildings. It's got newer buildings. But just being South Central Kentucky just makes it very, very convenient and a beautiful place to grow up. It's, matter of fact, I'm about 15 minutes from Mammoth Cave, Kentucky. It used to be one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. Apparently, they've taken it off the list lately.
Oh, well, it is. It's fine. That's great. I might come visit you. We're actually going to go to Mammoth here in the not too distant future. I think at the end of October or something, we're going to Mammoth. But yeah, so folks, if you don't know what that area is, you can look it up on a map. But it's pretty rural, I'd say. Wouldn't you agree with that, Kevin? Is it? I mean, 18,000 people is not a lot of people. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we are very rural, very country.
So yeah, so awesome. So how, I know you market on Facebook because I see your posts all the time. Do you do anything else in that area? Like, what other ways besides word of mouth? Word of mouth obviously is the holy grail in the handyman business, as we try to say, and there's a lot of things that we do to promote word of mouth sales. But is there anything else you do? Any other real marketing besides just posting pictures and stuff like that?
No, like I say, when I first started, it was newspaper, and I got enough business from that it kept me busy by myself. After a little while, my son would join in and help on certain jobs as the business grew. But other than word of mouth, newspaper, and Facebook, that's about the 3 avenues that I've chosen.
Yeah. And Kevin, have you found that now you're kind of at a critical mass where you're finding that you really don't advertise anymore, that all of it's coming now through word of mouth?
Absolutely. Everything goes to word of mouth and Facebook posts that are getting passed around.
That's great. That's great. That's exactly what happened with me too.
Yeah, that's what happened with both of us.
You go out and you do a little marketing, whether it's hand-to-hand combat type of marketing and guerrilla marketing, whatever you want to call it, and then it catches fire.
It does.
Then it's just relentless, with return business. Really, I've had a lot of business that's been that way.
Well,
so
we both do, and I have people that call me basically about every 3 months. I mean, it's just they work up a whole day's worth of work, and then I get the call. Is that what you get? Do you get a lot of that, Kevin, or do you get new projects, or what's your breakdown? Like, give us an idea.
I get both. I've got a very wonderful older clientele here that I've built up my business with, that they call me for anything and everything, which I love it. I want to be able to help people live comfortably in their home, and the older you get, the less you want to do or the less you can do. So at least I like to think that I have given them a point of contact to be able to reach out to for anything and everything. And if I don't know how to do it, I'll tell you. But more than likely, I've got a phone number of someone that I trust that I can call and refer them in to help my clients. But yeah, I get the multitude of older just clients calling me back to do whatever. And I get new clients all the time. As a matter of fact, I get so many calls during the day. A lot of times I just let it go to voicemail because of the wonderful call marketers calling in.
Mm-hmm.
I figure I don't want to be working on your house and stop and take a call from another client when I can let it go to voicemail, and it allows me to get back to them and sit down and jot down notes and make sure I've got a good detailed list of what they need so I can go see them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Geez, John, this sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Oh man, I can't tell you how many. Yeah, well, I'll stop right there. How many times I've cursed at text messages and things when I'm in the middle of something. But anyways, I want to go back to.
It only happens when you're under a house in the dark. Your hands are holding up a board and your phone rings.
Right. Yeah, it used to be, for me trying to put in a transmission in a car, and I'm bench pressing the transmission, and here's somebody, come up. What do you want for dinner? What? But
the old saying is don't bite the hand that feeds you.
Yeah. I hear that one.
This is true. This is true.
I want to go back to something that you just said. Because Larry and I are very much in this camp. Is that if we don't know how to do something, or it gets to be, let's call it, too comprehensive for whatever it might be, liability, legality, we'll hand it over to our plumber friends and our master electrician friends and things like that. But what I wanted to get your perspective on is what we have found is that we become kind of the trusted advisor for the people's properties, and they call us first, and this is one of the big things about folks out there that are listening right now, that, one of the great things about making friends and having a good handyman is a real source of knowledge to help you navigate the waters of all the different things that can happen to your home. And a good handyman will tell you, hey, I can do it, or I won't do it, but I got a guy that can do it. And here's what you need to look for, in that person as well, and in their job performance things, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking you just like us, you're a trusted resource. You're really a resource for people, along as you're more than just their guy that fixes things. You're the guy that helps them with and you said that too. You said you like to help your customers. Mm-hmm. I think that's a great mindset, because that's exactly the way that we approach our businesses, is that we feel like we're here to help. Even on this radio show, our goal really is to help people understand either about being a handyman or understand things about their home, so that they don't run into these problems that catch up with you. Like we were talking about it in the pre-show, you're going to fix it. You can either fix it today, or you can really expensively fix it later. So maintenance is a key, keeping your regular maintenance up. But anyway, it's kind of a different thing. So yeah, that's great. I mean, it was great to hear that. I think John and I have talked about all of those things from time to time. It was great to hear it all in one place, where you just kind of went down your whole business philosophy in a real quick and concise synopsis. Probably better than John and I did, I think, maybe. But we like that.
Y'all are professionals. I'm just a handyman. Y'all are professionals.
Yeah, well, that's in name only. No, I'm kidding. I would classify us all as professionals as a result of that, because we put our customers first. I think that's it. At the end of the day, I try to put my customers first. Now we have to make a profit, and we have to do all that kind of stuff and pay for our expenses and blah blah blah. But at the same time, we really want to offer up value to our customers. So I think the difference is all three of us offer a great value to our customers. We're not just the guy that does things. We're the guy that has resources, has contacts, understands how the processes work, understand what's involved in your home, what your systems are in your home, and then have appropriate fittings to do those kinds of things, because it's not all like you say, we can't all do those things. John and I, as everybody knows that listens to this show, knows we don't do high places, and for certain things we're not licensed. Yeah, right. And Kevin's the same way. Yeah, I don't do heights.
Yep.
Yeah,
those days are gone.
Those days are gone. So anyway, all right. Well, fantastic. What kind of questions do you get just on a daily basis from your customers? I'm just kind of curious. We do these kind of surveys things. We sort of see what our people do. Do you get any regular questions on a daily basis? Like, we get a lot of questions about wood rot in Atlanta. Do you get those kinds of questions, or you get other things, or what's up with that?
We get some wood rot here, not as much. A lot of them is you're working on a property doing something, and that leads into, hey, could you come in here and look at this? Hey, what do you think about that? I've got a hump in my floor here. What's causing that? And that's when you take the time to investigate. And I've heard you all say many times on here, it's not just fix it. It's why is it doing that to fix the problem?
Yep.
So it won't come back. But being able to investigate for the client and find out why something is protruding from the wall, the floor is humped up, I've got a stain on my ceiling, where's the leak coming from? It's, and again, it's the people that don't have the time, don't have the knowledge, don't have the tools, or the want to do the job. They just want you to come in there and fix it.
Yeah. And that leads to other sources of work. I mean, effectively, sometimes I dread when they say that. I've actually started. I've actually started scheduling in time when I talk to somebody that I know I'll end up being there longer, because they'll just be this, that, and the next thing. And I'm just going to give a quick example out of my world. I went to hang some outdoor lights, just the dangling lights for somebody, and he goes to plug them in, and of course he goes to his ground fault outlet, and it's toast. I mean, it was done. So he's like, "Hey, can you fix the ground fault outlet?" I said, "Well, I can, but it had actually popped out. It had come apart." And I was like, "Yeah, if you I've got a couple of things to do. You want to run down to the store and get one?" So he ran down, and I did the outlet. And that's just one example. I mean, sometimes it's like that hump in the floor, like, oh no, like this could be days, right? Days worth of work kind of thing. So just depending on the particulars of the situation. But yeah, and again, that's back to being a resource. So it's a fantastic opportunity. So,
hey, Kevin, is there a certain thing that certain jobs that you run across over and over again? Maybe that's when Larry just asked that question, it popped into my mind. What kind of things that is there something that you mainly do? That you're finding yourself doing? Let's put it that way.
Well, I like building decks and framing of flooring and whatnot. But you've got the stains under the sinks from where the valves are leaking or the faucets are leaking. So done quite a few kitchen sinks, bathroom sinks, and cabinets, or rebuilding. Just cut a new floor base to be able to put inside of a cabinet so that it's not sunk into the floor again. But yeah, I think mainly decks. Getting back to the rot you all have down there, we have those little bugs that come out of the ground called termites. They love to eat the wood. Crawled up under a house that a gentleman had told me 2 different jobs. One of them told me that he had some termite damage on some floor joists under his house. Lo and behold, it went from 3 to 27 floor joists.
Whoa!
That we had to.
Yeah.
And another one, he had a massive amount of groundwater that flowed under his house from the hillside, and heard a loud pop, crawled under his house, and the floor joists were just mildewed and breaking in half. So we ended up replacing 17 of those and adding in 3 support beams. Just to get the floor back up to where the baseboard met the flooring.
Wow. Now,
yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. That's kind of funny, Larry. I don't know. Be outside of your rental properties. I haven't. Have you run into anything that like that? I mean, I haven't.
I haven't. I guess I want to say, Kevin, how old were these homes? And the reason I ask is the last time I ran into a lot of that stuff was when I lived up north, and the homes were considerably older, considerably. 1890s, that kind of thing.
The one with the water flow was probably early 1900s. I would say 1940-ish. The other one was probably 1990.
Oh wow! Yeah. Oh, that was that was termite damage.
That's
though,
termites,
right?
though.
Yeah, that was termites.
Yeah. We do have those in Atlanta. Those little buggers are really, folks. If you don't have a termite program, you need to get one. If you,
right. You can't be selling. You won't be selling a house here either without one. So I'll tell you.
Yeah, in Georgia.
I think the local pest company said that they have on average of 7 colonies per acre.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So that's really interesting because it's funny to talk to handymen that are around the country because they run into different things. Wouldn't you agree, Larry? I mean, it's like a different. Well, down here, I don't know. I do some deck repair, which is only just replacing boards. We don't get into anything structural because that's really a no-no for us. I mean, from a permitting and license, right. That whole thing down here in Georgia it's incredibly tight down here on that. But a lot of faucets, fans, everything else, wallboard work. I'm following behind my buddies from either electrical, plumbing, to close up walls where they had to open them up and all that kind of thing. But it's just funny to talk to folks from different areas, what they run into most of the time. So,
yeah, and those are interesting things too.
Yeah,
right? So.
Sure.
In the process right now, a gentleman had an older home that had a 16 by 16 master bedroom added on, and over the years, the columns that it was supported by sank. So I just had to lift it about 3 inches to level it out and put it back on support beams and support posts.
Yeah. Did you pour concrete for that, or how did you do that actually?
I did. I used 6 by 6 posts, poured about a 20-inch diameter, 2 foot deep columns of cement with rebar in them, and then set supports in those to be able to put the posts onto.
Yep. Yeah, those are good jobs. I mean, those
are good jobs.
Yeah, and that's not something most homeowners want to tackle. It's not like, how do I want to say it? It's not that it's a super difficult job. It's just got some technical to it. There's a little bit of technical to it. And you have to understand about it, and you have to understand about setting that 2 foot footer. Do you have a freeze line where you are? Is there a freeze line or not?
We do. It's about 16 to 18 inches.
Okay, so it is deep enough that, Johnny, I'm remembering back from living in Western New York.
No, I know.
I know. But, in Georgia, we don't have a freeze line, so we don't have to worry about being a certain depth. If you're 4 or 5 inches under the ground, you're generally pretty good for frost heaves and things like that. So it's a pretty interesting thing, again, when we talk about being in different parts of the country, and both John and I grew up in cold climate, so we understand that whole getting underneath the freeze line and then supporting. What's your soil like there? I just am kind of curious because we have a lot of clay here, and you have clay as well. Yeah, so digging is always so fun. Not.
Now do that while you're in a crawl space that's about 18 to 24 inches tall, and you're digging down to be able to put these footers in. Yeah.
Right. Were you using your hammer? Fun. Were you using your hammer by chance? Were you using a claw hammer to do that dig or not?
No, I'm using a Army entrenching tool, which really works well, along with a Bosch Bulldog and a spade and a chisel bit.
Oh, nice. Yes, so you're chiseling it out and then dragging it out. Yeah. So Folks, if you don't know what we're talking about, so Kevin's talking about being see, I've just spent I'm doing a rehab on a rental house, and so it's the same kind of deal. We've been underneath, and we added one support beam, and we had to dig out in it, and when you're under the home and it's 24 inches tall, which is pretty narrow, believe it or not, digging is not as simple as it sounds. So what Kevin's taking is he's taken an impact drill. It's technically a drill. You probably set it on hammer function, put a chisel bait on it.
Yeah.
Dug up basically ground out sections of the ground, because clay, folks, if you don't know this, especially if it's dry, it is basically concrete. It is hard. I mean, it does dig, but it's really hard. And so he's chiseling up or breaking up the soil. We'll call it breaking up because it's kind of what you do. And then dragging it out with an entrenching tool. All of this happens under the house. That sounds like tons of fun. Wow. I think I want to do more of that. Not?
Yeah.
It's oodles and oodles of fun.
Kevin, I was going to ask you, with all that going on, have you ever had to get a structural engineer in on to help you out on anything in question?
I haven't on those yet, but I do have the code books at hand, so I'm researching in those quite a bit for structural strength, material guidelines, what code permits, just to make sure that I'm following everything. No, I haven't gotten anything that large yet, but I would use them in the future if I was going to build something larger.
Yeah. Or if you had to get a permit.
Yes.
Do you get permits or not? Like, I'm asking mostly about decks, because we have real deck permit issues in Greater Atlanta. So
here in the counties, they don't require them, so I don't have to be able to get those. Now, if I did them in town, yes, I'd have to go in and file for a permit. But out in the county outlying areas, you don't.
Okay. Yep. Kind of the rural mindset, and then you probably over-engineer it to a certain degree anyway, so you're not having any deck collapses. A lot of the things that happen in Atlanta is back in, what was it, Johnny, in the 90s or something? There was a company that they built
the late 80s,
bunch of bad decks, and I mean a lot of people got hurt. I mean seriously hurt. A couple of deaths if I remember right, and so so they clamped down on that stuff pretty heavily. In and around where we are, mostly because of really bad construction practices, and so decks were falling off of homes, and they were tall decks. They were 2-story decks, and people got hurt, and so forth and so on. It's that kind of thing, and that's why they clamped down on it. Now I know when if I was doing a deck, I mean, trust me, I would over-engineer the daylights out of it, because basically you're talking about materials. And materials are relatively inexpensive compared to the rest of it. It's mostly the labor that gets kind of expensive in any of these projects. So, if you're supposed to use 6x6s, use 6x6s. I always never did understand why people put things on 4x4s. Like, no, not really.
Yeah.
No. I mean, unless you're 2 feet off the ground or something, right? Which is a little different. But yeah, and 2x10s or 2x12s, just depending on what people are going to use it for. So yeah. All right, well, yeah, that's great. Where are we, John? What you got any questions for Kevin? I'm just, this is fascinating. I love the digging content. It's just crazy. I mean, because I've just done a bunch of it. I just got up under one of these homes, and we just had a little. Actually, we were up under the bathroom. We're redoing the bathroom, and like all homes built, 60, 70 years ago, which is when this one was built, there's a little bit of wood rot on the joists around the plumbing. It just is what it is. So we've been shoring it up, because now's the time to do it, right? While you're in the middle of the construction project, now's the time to tighten up everything. So it didn't really need it, but I'm kind of like, it's back to that materials thing. I'm going to spend $100 in materials, and I'm going to shore this thing up, and I'm not going to worry about it again from my perspective, kind of thing. We talked about maintenance. I want to talk about this because we talked about maintenance before the show. You had an interesting. You spent your career doing maintenance for the Army largely, and you've since done maintenance for some major corporations and some major buildings. Would you tell us your philosophy on maintenance for our listeners so they understand? Because this is probably the biggest takeaway I had from it. John and I fall in the same basic idea, but I want to hear it from you. What's your take on home maintenance?
It's cheaper and easier to maintain than it is to rebuild. And if you go in and set a schedule, or have a handyman, if you want it for that matter, to set a schedule once in the fall, once in the spring, to go through and check gutters, check foundations, check window sills, check for leaks. It's a better plan and cheaper on the homeowners to plan and do maintenance versus waiting until it's gone. I've worked for corporations that would run to failure, and it just it blew my mind that they would want to do that, because it's easier and cheaper in the long run to maintain than it is to have to shut down and rebuild.
Couldn't agree with that more. And we just, it's pay me now or pay me later, right? You're going to pay one way or the other. It's, as you say, it's cheaper and easier, and and John and I talk about this all the time, but it's also plannable, right? So instead of going to failure, as you say, some people run to failure, you're heading off that failure so you can repair things on your schedule, not on the failure schedule, right? If that makes sense. It's not critical in a gutter. Well, actually, it is kind of critical in a gutter. If you're in a snow area, do you guys get snow where you are? You get some snow.
We get some snow.
Yeah, you get some snow. But, I mean, cleaning your gutters in the wintertime in western New York, when your gutters are full of leaves and stuff, not a real fun experience, folks. Do it in the fall. Do it in the spring. Get them cleaned out once the leaves finish falling. Get rid of all that stuff and get it out of your things, because the failure is it fills up with water and ice and then falls off your house. Right. You know, it gets ripped off your house because it's so heavy. And then that becomes a critical issue at that point, not where you can plan it, right? So that's just one of my big things. I always like, if you plan your maintenance, you head off those problems and you can get things done when you want to get them done, which in turn allows you to call a contractor or whatever, and then he's flexible with his schedule, so he's going to be less expensive, or at least more flexible with pricing, because as we all know, emergency calls are expensive. At least they are in our world, Kevin. I don't know. Do you charge any extra for an emergency call?
I do. It's just simple fact. Emergency calls are usually after hours. Yep. You may get something in the middle of a job. A loyal customer calls you up. You're in the middle of something. I've got a water leak. Can you come look at it? Well, let me get this to a point to where I can stop. And yes, I'll come look at it. But if they call me at 2 a.m, that's a different story.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, 10-4 on that one. Got that one for sure. So, all right. So I'm going to call that because our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation, that doing regular maintenance is going to be our tip from Kevin, because it's our tip that we've done several times anyway. So tell us about a unique or crazy job you've done. You said you got a good one. We have not heard this, so we're looking forward to this one.
Let's hear that one.
Doing floor joists on a house. One of the jobs I had mentioned earlier, had my son with me underneath the house, and we were pulling insulation down from the floor joists to sister new joists up to it. He turned around, looked at me, and he said, "Look what I just found." And it was about a 3-foot snakeskin. And I said, "Oh, that's cute." A couple of minutes later, he said, "Oh, look, I found another one." I said, "That's cute. Now, what are you going to do if you find what was in that?" He said, "I don't know." And then after a few loudly yelled words, I heard the word snake, snake, snake come out of his mouth. He was on his belly in a crawl space about 18 inches high, pulling the insulation out, and was about 2 feet away from the concrete block wall when he pulled out a block of insulation, and a 6-foot black snake fell right in front of him. My son is over 6 foot tall. We had a hole in the floor that had rotted from the termites that we had opened up, sistered the joists on. So 16 on center floor joists are 14 and a half inches between them, and now put another 1.5 inches into that. We had trouble getting out of the floor. The next thing I know, Colton was standing on the floor in the house where I was still under the house on the other side of the beam, wondering what snake it was, where is it, what's it going to do to me? Yeah, that was.
So you guys didn't have the philosophy that they're more afraid of you than you are of them?
Right. And when I'm out in the yard and I see one, I have no problem with that philosophy. When you're face to face with one down on their level in the dark, that went out the window.
Yeah.
It's funny because when you were talking about doing all this under the crawl space, I was going to ask, have you ever run into any critters? Basically, I was thinking snakes is what always jumps into my mind, and or other things.
Yeah.
I mean, oh boy, that
Awesome.
and a 6-footer, that's a big one. Yeah. Oh yeah.
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 Then
So
you
we
got
don't
an
have.
issue.
Well, I say we don't have. We're starting to get those armored possums. You got down there have
Oh,
the
the armadillos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
armadillos.
Yeah, we're starting to get those up here, but yeah, those are something that would not be fun to. Just anything that you're down on their level, looking at them eye to eye in the dark.
Yeah, not so
Yeah,
much
no,
fun.
they-
No.
Yeah, they disappeared and wonder where are they.
Yeah, that's. Well, the good news is at least it was a black snake, right? I mean, at least it wasn't.
Yes.
It wasn't something that's got fangs that can really hurt you. I mean, they can bite you. And it's not so much fun, but they're kind of one of those things. Did you ever figure out why that snake was in there? I mean, with obviously, so snakes, folks, if you don't know,
Rats.
they go after mice and rats, and
Mice.
so
Yep.
they're usually
Yep.
in there
and
because
it was
there's
cooler.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It
Yep.
was a little bit. It was in the spring, so he was under there staying warm, eating the mice. After we had the owner get in a company, it was funny. Their name was Critter Getters. They didn't find anything under the floor, but they went up in the attic and found 2 more.
Oh, 2 more black
Yeah.
snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get around.
Yeah, they do. It's pretty amazing. It's kind of a good, in some ways, it's a good problem to have as long as it's just it's that shock value. When you see one, it's like, man, because they're really quiet. Like that's the other side. You think they're loud, and
Yeah.
they're not, right? I mean, they'll crawl right by you. You're like, what's that? Oh my God,
Yeah.
Yeah, and up
Yeah.
under a crawl space, that's a totally different thing. I've had run-ins with certain furry critters, like mostly mice and a couple of rats, and it's just even that's unnerving. It's just like, oh geez, oh. But
Black widow spiders, right, Larry?
Oh, black widows,
Yeah.
and even worse, brown recluses, which I just
Yeah.
it's bad. It's bad. So be careful out there, folks. All right.
And when you're in a dark space with a flashlight and you shine on a little spider, their shadow on the wall can be as big as a cat. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm kind of laughing because that's boy, is that the truth too? Like look at the size of that thing. My God, it's Mothra. It's like, Godzilla's gonna be coming. I'm telling you. Like,
Yep. As we come up on Halloween, what a show.
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin, you just made the Halloween show. I didn't think about that one. We've got the Halloween show we need to do, but that's true. It's coming up on the Halloween show. All right. Well, we're kind of running out of time. This has been great. Kevin, how can people get a hold of you? We would like to have you back on the show sometime. We love trading stories, and we love hearing, getting this insight from a guy that does a lot of good stuff, and especially in a small market. We like to, those tips are very helpful if you're in the handyman business or any business really. Listen to a lot of the things that Kevin said because those are success tips as far as I'm concerned.
And I will say this, Larry, that for all the folks out there listening, is to join the Facebook group, because Kevin is posting a lot of things out there that's really interesting pictures.
Yeah, but don't have your wife look at the laundry room picture. Just don't do it. Just saying.
Yeah, you'll be lining up some work for yourself.
it's a job. But anyway, how can people get a hold of you, Kevin? I'm sorry, we ran out of that question. How can people get a hold of you?
Sure. Phone number is 270-349-2945. On Facebook at KD4NBZ, that's Kilo Delta 4 November Bravo Zulu phonetically, or Kevin Kronemeyer at gmail.com.
Yeah, and it's Kronemeyer. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just so people can do it, because this is audio. Remember, nobody can see it.
Yeah.
So awesome. All right, Kevin, we want to thank you for being on the show, and we will talk to you soon. All right, well, I want to thank Kevin for being on the show. John, what are some of the key takeaways?
Yeah, I also want to thank Kevin for taking the time, and I know that he's got a lot of things going on. And if you haven't, folks, been on our Facebook page, go on our Facebook page, join up. Kevin posts a lot of things. He'll answer a lot of questions. It's a great forum, and so with that, the takeaways that I took, that I am walking away with here is that he's absolutely right. And Larry, you and I push this a lot. you have to stay on top of it because it costs a lot less maintain your property than it does to rebuild it.
Yeah,
So,
or repair it completely,
repair it, because you and I were just on a job the other day, right?
Yep.
And this was constant maintenance, or you're going to have water issues.
Yeah.
So, and that was just cleaning out the roof and so on and so forth, but it goes for everything. So that, really need to take that to heart. And I try to do myself. There's a lot of systems in your home, in your house. There's a lot of things to look after in a home. So you really want to stay on top of it. And if you can, you're going to be a lot happier than if it fails.
Yeah, if it fails. And that's just, that was one of my big takeaways here too, is we like to say you're going to pay me, you're going to pay sometime. The question is when and how much, right? So you can either pay a small amount now, or you can pay a lot later. Kevin talked a bit about, and of course you all have listened to the episode, but Kevin talked a lot about the company they worked for that ran to failure. Folks, I don't suggest running to failure. That's not a great program. It works on certain things, but it doesn't really work on most things. You really don't want to run to failure on your roof, for example. Bad idea. When the water's streaming in, not so good. Causes a lot of other problems and things like that. And you just don't need it. Stay ahead of it. Replace your roof when you need to replace your roof. When somebody tells you it needs to be replaced, or you figure out it needs to be replaced, replace it. Do it on your schedule, not on somebody else's. That was one of my big takeaways. And it's good to hear that same thing coming from another professional handyman, right? I mean, Kevin is very, very professional. There's no ifs, ands, or buts in my thing. What's another takeaway, Johnny?
Yeah, so the other thing was that it's so for everybody out there that two sides to this story, and that is, if you're a handyman, it's all about marketing, how you're getting started and where all of your jobs are coming from. And once your name gets out there, you really have this word of mouth that's really traveled through, Kevin was talking to us about how, he's actually, really busy. And it's a lot of repeat business. Yep. And that really does happen in this business. Now, on the other side, if you're somebody who does employ a handyman, just know, Larry, and I think you said it before, that a lot of the good handymen, it might take a week or 2 weeks for them to get out to your place because they are so busy. So, kind of look at it that way.
Yeah, look at it through
marketing,
that lens. Yep.
Yeah, look at it through that lens, because marketing really in this business, once you start this thing and the embers start, it really does light a fire. And that's what I've noticed. You get a certain amount of customers and things really do keep moving. So, I love to do all this work, and unfortunately I have to turn down a lot of things because people want things to be done within, let's say a 3-day time frame, and I can't. There's no way I can turn it around.
Right.
So
it's just and my thing on this one too is really, in the reality for the average person who owns a home, if you call up a contractor, and I don't care what kind of contractor it is, if they can get out there today or tomorrow and there isn't a reason for that, and so bigger companies like have crash teams, if you want to call it that, right, John? So if you've got 50 trucks, you've got 1 or 2 guys dedicated to handling emergencies or immediate jobs straight away. But if you're a smaller operator, a 1, 2, 3-person kind of company, if a guy's not busy, you need to know why. You need to know the why. It's more important for you to know the reason why than for him to get out there and actually do the work. Because if he doesn't have this steady streaming, Kevin lives in a very small market. I mean, I think it was 18,000 people, I think is what he told us. And I sat there and said, gosh, John, there's more than that, within 3 square miles of your home or my home for that matter, like, so we live in we live in the suburbs, but it's a metro area, and so, but even in his small town, he can't get out to things. He's booked out, and it's, if you're not booked out, what's the reason why? So I will give you a personal example. For me, if somebody called me, I do have holes in my schedule. They're very few and far between at this point, but occasionally there's a hole, and my question is, it goes to the nature and scope of the work, but my answer always going to be, well, if you just need this job done, I'm available on this date. If it's longer than that, we're out past XYZ date. Right now it's believe it or not, it's past the first of the year. So with that, just understand the why, and it is, as John said, it's that marketing. Once that fire starts, once people start referring you, you're off to the races, and your ability to generate new business becomes not quite so important. But you want, at the same time, one of my takeaways from this conversation with Kevin was he really cares about his customers too, and that's something that both John, you and I, we share. That we really want to work in the best interest of our customers, because that's just how we are. It's how we're wired. I'm not going to be giving bad advice out to my customers, to the best of my knowledge, right? I mean, I'm not going to say I know everything, because I don't, but I'm constantly learning. So I did learn from Kevin that I don't want to be under a crawl space of 18 inches and have a 6-foot snake drop out. Yes, I did learn that.
Right. And go ahead, Larry.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, any other takeaways out of this one, John?
Yeah. I mean, I think once again, it's, everybody out there that is not there. Again, here's two sides of the story for our audience. The folks that are handymen and the ones that are hiring, and that is they're consultant really.
Yeah.
To the homeowner.
Yeah.
And I think that from the handyman side of things, that's the way you need to look at yourself. What you were just saying. You don't know everything. You've got other resources, but you can certainly help. And on the homeowner side, it's really nice to make contact with a good handyman and employ a good handyman. And even if, call them up, they're going to be the ones to say, I can do that business, or I have somebody else to do it, and here's what to expect out of it. And they'll give you, the real skinny on that whole thing. So that was the other thing that keeps coming through with good handymen.
Yeah, as we talk to more and more handymen, that just seems to be a theme, I'm going to say. This ability to want to help and to offer up good advice. It just seems to become a theme, and that's applicable to both if you want to be a handyman and or you want to hire a handyman. You want somebody that has a skill set. Really, a good handyman has a huge skill set, but they also know their limitations. So anyway, with that, John,
yes.
I believe, did you not tell me the last time you were abducted by an alien they wanted a consult?
No, it was down for maintenance.
Did you take it apart and fix it? That's the key question. You took it apart and you fixed it. Awesome. It's awesome. All right. Questions, comments, or concern, bad jokes included. Folks, if you have a bad joke you want us to tell, send it to us. Questions at handymanprosradioshow.com or at handymanprosradioshow@gmail.com. Send us your bad jokes. We will tell them. Trust me. We will tell them. We are in the process also of starting up a newsletter, folks. So if you would like to subscribe to our newsletter, go to our website. It's handymanprosradioshow.com and subscribe to our newsletter. We will send you updates every so often. You're going to get some content that otherwise you're not going to get on the show. And you will get some content that's on the show, but it'll definitely be much more in-depth. We also do have a Facebook group as well. It's at Handyman Pros. And we are on Twitter as well, and that's at Handyman Radio. So we like the interaction. We really like to hear it. Kevin is actually one of our members of our Facebook group, and he puts a lot of posts up. He's put up some really, really, really good stuff. And so anyway, go out there and check it out. And with that, John, we will see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.